Hello, all. Are you icy or slushy people, by the way? Just curious.
Slurpee.
Slurpee? Slurpee,
Uh,
slushy, icy,
Slurpee.
Slurpee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I mean, that was I mean, not any longer because I don't think I've been to 7-Eleven for a Slurpee in about 30 years. But when I was a kid, it was
Well, I'll give people a little secret. Here's what I do with Wawa. If I'm playing softball during the day and it's like 90-something degrees, I get a Slurpee and I bring it to the game because it lowers your core temperature and it actually helps you stay cooler from the start of the game throughout. And that's something I read online, and it really does work.
Huh.
And now that I'm playing night games, it's not as big of a deal because with the sundown, it's not as bad. But like today, Slurpee day.
Oh yeah, this is
But-
today's just miserable outside.
But a large Slurpee is about 6 billion grams of sugar. It's just
Yeah.
it's so sickeningly sweet. And like, because you can get like a cherry Slurpee, a grape Slurpee. You can get like a Slurpee with Coca-Cola in it.
Yeah, I know. Coca-Cola Slurpee, that's the way to go for me. I mean, as far as Slurpees go, like I'm a mixture of I make a cherry Coke Slurpee essentially. That's what I do.
I will tell you this though. Taco Bell has the orange cream, orange crush
Oh yeah, I tried that.
frozen drink. That's actually pretty good.
Really delicious. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this up before we start because in scanning
Hungry.
Twitter in this morning, I come upon something that is just utterly disgusting at the thought of trying it. But Russ said he'll give it a shot because he's a fan of the particular candy that it is, or I guess you call it a
Oh,
candy.
those are two of my favorite things. Put them together. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Oreos have branched out to do different flavored Oreos. They've done lemon, they've done pumpkin flavor, mint chocolate. All these different variations. That's fine and good. But today I see they're coming out with Swedish fish flavored Oreos. I've reached my limit. No.
I'll certainly try it, and it's funny because look, I had this
We
thing.
should try it on the air together, Russ. Like, get a package of them. I'll get a package of them.
That's
And
fine. We
we'll-
could
we'll
do
put
that.
them here, and we'll wait, and we'll when are they in stores yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
But I started this crazy thing on Instagram with Flyers games where they would have Swedish fish, and I would take a picture,
Right.
and it branched out. So then people give me pounds of Swedish fish, and I don't eat that much of it. I like the taste. I even like the vodka, but there's a limit to an amount that I'll eat each sitting. I have like 3 or 4 Swedish fish, and I like that. So
You know
I
what?
made like
Here's a, you know,
gonna say, I
I
made, like,
use
the
Swedish
first
fish for it. Swedish fish is actually really good for your. It's just a trick. If you have kids and you go on airplanes, and
Right.
you're going to land, and you want your kids to like not chew gum necessarily, but like chew something to keep their ears from popping. Swedish fish is like the way to go with that because
Okay.
they're nice and chewy. And yeah, I mean, there's all different levels of Swedish fish. Like that's the other thing too. Like when they give you the individually packaged Swedish fish at the at the Wells Fargo Center, they used to individually package. That seemed like a horrible waste of energy.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Swedish fish in individual packaging.
there's something about the consistency of like Swedish fish gummy bears, like Twizzlers. I can't get into them. But the flavor is okay, but to have that transmitted into an Oreo cookie is just
Gummy bears I don't get because they instantly melt on your teeth, and I don't like that, right? Twizzlers I get, but they're harder. So Swedish fish are, to me, like in between. They're the in
Swedish
between.
fish are best if you kept them keep in your pocket for like a couple hours and then like just like let them warm up.
especially when it's 95 out.
Oh yeah, they're warmed. When the Swedish fish when they get to a softer consistency are better in my opinion.
Well, what about like jujubes or juji fruit? Remember
No.
the
No,
one the ones
Mike
that
and Ike's and things like that.
I hated jujubes. Now, what was the other one you said?
there was juji fruit and jujube.
Yeah. Juji
Well,
fruit
yeah.
was okay, but I mainly gravitated towards the licorice for that.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
this is the thing. It's like there are certain, and I'm not going to get way far afield here, but like when I was a kid, I liked
Too late.
drinking Tang. Tang was my like I didn't like orange juice because I didn't like the pulp. So
That's why you became a diabetic, because you drank Tang.
right, it's all sugar, of course. Oh, please, between Tang and Coca-Cola, of course, I know the reason why. And the fact that I used to eat cookie dough out of the package. But
I'll do it.
But Tang was, the orange flavored Tang, and I'd put a little extra other thing in there, so really orangey. And then one day my mother got grape flavored Tang. It was the most disgusting flavored Tang I've ever tasted in my life. So that's what I mean. There's a good idea Tang. Yes. Grape flavor Tang? No. That's what I think Swedish Fish Oreos, that's going to be in the no category.
I could probably eat a few. We'll see. I don't know if I'll eat a whole package. So we'll do that, Ek, and we'll buy them and we'll see.
Oh, I could eat a whole package, no question about it. But yeah, I don't think we should eat a whole package.
But at the end of the day, this is what I would tell these companies: go with the original flavor. Don't go with all these tricked out things unless you just do it for a limited time, because there's nothing more confusing than walking through the Oreo aisle and there's 20 types.
Well, Lay's
but I'm one, okay, I'm going to throw this out there now. The Shamrock Shake needs to be available all year long. That's just something that's ridiculous.
Yes, I agree with that.
Right? I mean, the Shamrock, so I'm not into this limited run,
No, I am, because
Girl Scout cookies only part of the year, that kind of thing.
There's a reason. We definitely know what we like when we like something. Mm-hmm. And so, if I like, I don't know, let's just say I like Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, which I do. I don't need any other type of Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. I will walk up and buy the regular. I know what they're trying to do because they want to get a quick sales fix, and that's why it should be limited time only.
So you don't like them in dark chocolate or white chocolate?
No.
No. This I liked this at the very beginning. And this is the last thing. But Lay's potato chips a couple years ago came out with this limited issue variety of flavors. They'd have a contest. That was cool. But it's getting bad now when the flavors are now Szechuan chicken. And the first time it was chicken and waffles and tzatziki and a few other things. Now they've gone so far afield that it's peanut butter potato chips and lime flavored potato. It's gross. You're getting to the point now where it sickens me just to look at the bags.
Once in a while, I'll venture out for a different flavor. I had recently coconut crusted cashews, right? And that was great for a one-off.
Yeah,
but I'm going to go back to the original again after that another 20,000 times.
Yeah, so my favorite thing to snack on lately is are freeze-dried edamame.
Okay, yeah.
Really, they're good for you. They're full of protein. They're better than they're yummy. They're not as good as I'm a real I eat edamame every day. That's my staple meal to keep me from dying. So I just keep eating edamame all the time. And I make it in all different kinds of ways. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I don't eat those because it has the word mommy in it.
Edamame. I know I can never say it properly. What is that flavor? Oh man, there's this flavor in Lancaster, and I always forget this. It's this crazy candy flavor. It's licorice, but it's not. It has the word. I hate to say it. HORE in it. But it's part of but it's not I keep wanting to say something that I don't want to say out loud. But I can't think of the flavor of it. And it's this really bizarre. And I've had it. It's just terrible. But it's a big thing when you go out to the Amish country, which is only about 30 minutes from me. And you go out to the stores out there. They have these. They sell these candies, and it's sold with licorice-ish stuff, and it's usually hard candies, and it's this really root beery type. But it's hard to explain. It's root beer colored, but it's very weird. I'll think of it at the end.
Wait, but you're not thinking of birch beer or something?
No. This is only found in Amish country, as far as I know.
I was going to ask birch beer. Last question: birch beer, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
All right, now birch beer versus root beer. This is where I get confused.
No, just whether you like it.
If it's on its own, thumbs up. If it's against root beer, it's thumbs down.
Oh no.
Because I had this really great root beer that they make out in St. Louis. It comes from St. Louis. I can't think of the name of it, but it's really famous. It's the big thing out there. What's it called?
Take a Boost.
No, it's not Take a Boost. It's the root beer of St. Louis. I can't believe I had it and I'm not a huge root beer person, but when I was out there, I was drinking it all the time. So I don't have my RC Cola today like I did. There's my RC Cola. Remember RC Cola? When you care enough to not buy Pepsi or Coke, and you just really want something else.
People used to brand me that. They used to call me RC in college, in high school.
There you go. All right, let's get going, shall we? Now that I'm really hungry.
I already ate. I ate badly too. I ate Checkers. That's bad.
Let me just get my notes up real quick here. I
Checkers. They just opened one here. Is it bad? Is it? Where is it on the?
Look, it's all bad, right? So if I just limit it, then it's okay.
Where is it on the scale of badness? Is it as bad as Wendy's, or is it bad? I'm just killing advertisers.
It's very similar to Wendy's, actually, as far as the.
It tastes good. That's not the problem. They know what I mean when I say it's bad. It's not healthy.
It's a good bad, yeah.
But
it's a good bad. Yeah, no, Checkers are usually good because they have the first place I remember with the double drive-in where you can just go quickly at any point. and see them. That's where they're probably at their best. But
Oh, so you had a girlfriend at Checkers? Is that what you're saying?
no, I never did. There was one near where I went to school, and I would go there all the time. Actually, good iced teas, like that's something. For me, that's always a big deal.
Yeah.
You don't have good iced tea, you're screwed because I won't go there.
Yeah, if you don't have good iced tea, I don't care about you.
Because I don't like to drink Coke and stuff like that too often. I drink it like as occasionally. That's my that's my beer because I don't drink beer. So Coke is like my special thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Here we go. I think we're good.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's hit it. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, August 11th, 2016.
I'm not Michael Phelps. I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I think Eck wrote down the time and day there. I think the day and date. I do.
I'm trying to compose myself to do this very professionally beforehand. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get into a space, be character. And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the hockey comings and goings of the hockey world. And today, I guess we should start off with sort of a minor thing, but an interesting one in James Wisniewski signing a PTO. That would be a part-time offer or a
a professional tryout.
Professional tryout with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And James Wisniewski, who has made good money over the last several years, not playing because he's been hurt a lot. I think he's probably not looking for much money in this deal. And this might actually become a really interesting little steal for the Lightning. I mean, if you can grab a guy like James Wisniewski out, and get him for very minimal just because he wants to go someplace where he can win. I've always been a James Wisniewski fan. I'll admit that. So I'm a little bit biased here, maybe, but he has had some rough times the past few years.
Well, I think that's what we all sort of agreed upon, though, that this is what was going to happen based on his injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't on that day, Mike.
I didn't agree on that at all. No.
Yeah, I did the tryout versus contract, and I thought with the fact that there are not that many defensemen out there that he would get a team to bite on a 1-year deal. Now the thing is, and we know this from other situations, the agent and the team will negotiate an amount. They'll say, okay, he's going to get $1.5 million if he makes the team, but we want to see if he's up to it, if his knee can handle it. So they probably have already agreed on money. It's just a question of whether they're going to make that next step and take that and offer him the 1-year contract.
But basically, I said PTO and you didn't, so I'm right and you're wrong. That's really what it boils down to.
Okay,
that's what it comes down to. I think
a broken clock is right twice a day. But saying that, I think it's a good risk for the Lightning because, I mean, before he blew out his knee in the first game of the season with Carolina, I mean, this is a guy who was making over $5 million a year, a defenseman who can score. He's, not your prototypical offensive defenseman. I think I put him in the sort of and I'm not saying he's as good as Keith Yandle, but sort of that Keith Yandle rover type of defenseman, more than a traditional stay-at-home guy or puck rusher. But he can generate offense. He could be a point man on the power play if needs be. And with them getting rid of Matt Carle on the buyout, if Wisniewski even just fits in on the bottom pairing, if the goal of Tampa Bay is to win the Stanley Cup, this could be a godsend for them as adding a veteran guy and not having to depend on one of those young guys like Slater Cuckoo or somebody else to be in the top 6 on the Lightning.
Or Nestorov,
I think Nestorov is the odd man out here if Wisniewski makes it.
I would think so.
At a certain point, if they bring in Wisniewski and they're playing hardball with Nestorov, I mean, maybe the KHL is a option for Nestorov.
Well, because you figure, like you said, Cuckoo probably has a position this year. He did prove himself, and so they got and Carl's gone, and so this would be a way of adding a less risky puck mover if Wisniewski's healthy, because he's less risky than Matt Carle, and Kuko was already less risky than Matt Carle even last year. So I think this is a big upgrade for Tampa. Like, this would really make me think better of their defense if they added him.
I completely agree with you. I mean, if they get him, I mean, this is the kind of thing. This is the rich get richer scenario that you see with teams that are really good sometimes. This is what Chicago. This is like a Chicago Blackhawks type move, honestly.
And it's a short-term fix. I mean, he'll probably get a 1-year deal if he makes the team, and that's beneficial for both teams because Wisniewski has to prove his worth in terms of his health. And if he puts up good numbers, and Tampa has tons of offense, obviously with Stamkos and that plethora of offensive talent that they have. If Wisniewski has a really good offensive year, then he can go into free agency next year and demand a 2 or 3 year deal and get close to what kind of money he was getting with Anaheim and Carolina.
Tampa's a perennial contender now, there's no doubt. The interesting thing is somebody cornered me the other day, I don't know where I was, and they were like, well, who's good this year? Well, who are you going to think? And you know what? And I couldn't believe I was saying it, but I actually said the Nashville Predators. I did. I actually feel like this could be a big year for them. And they were the first team that came to mind. I didn't, and I said, I don't think Chicago's the same. I don't think LA is the same. I don't think the Sharks are going to be the same as last year. Pittsburgh will certainly be in it. Tampa will certainly be in it. But I don't know why my brain went to the Nashville Predators. We'll see if it stays there when camp opens, but it's sort of there now.
When I think of I've been asked the same question a couple times, and I go back to Tampa and I go back to Pittsburgh, obviously, because seems to be the law, right?
Right.
But Pittsburgh is one of those teams was it just lightning in the bottle? I don't know. It could have been, but it went on for a very long time, so it feels like not. But I agree with you with Nashville as far as the West goes, and I can't help but think Chicago's going to be back. Like somehow, I just think that.
I mean, look, Chicago is in it. They're always going to be in it, but I think the last few years of mortgaging has mortgaged their depth. I don't think their depth is the same anymore.
Depending on how they address their defensive situation, and I'm saying because they have a overabundance of defensemen, I could see Anaheim. They lost to Nashville in the first round. Now they have Gibson as the #1 goaltender. They're stacked on the blue line. If they can get some scoring, if they trade Fowler for a forward and sign Lindholm, I give them a good chance of coming out of the West. I'm not saying they're the only one. I think Chicago will be back. I think Nashville has improved. I think the addition of Subban is really going to help them. But I don't know.
It's not just Subban too. It's a Subban-Laviolette factor. It's not just adding Subban, because look, if you added Subban to a lot of other teams, I don't know if I would say, hey, that's going to all of a sudden throw them over the top. But now you're sort of adding them to a Laviolette team where that does suit his style. Not that Shea Weber didn't suit it, but really Shea Weber's not the kind of guy. I mean, yes, he's a Pronger-ish guy, and Laviolette worked with Pronger, but Pronger is better than Shea Weber. I mean, I don't think that's any slight to Shea Weber. It's just the way it is. Yeah. I think Shea Weber has a better shot, but I think Pronger was always more effective. But I think Subban adding that extra speed to that lineup that Weber didn't have, and just getting more shots on net and getting a chance for them to have a better power play, it seems like it could be a really good year for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fit is much better both ways. Weber in Montreal, Subban with Nashville, and Johansson settles in now. It's for a full year there, and Forsberg is coming into his own on a new deal. Yeah, I can see that.
If they have any kind of offense, I mean, that's the biggest thing with Nashville. We're always saying that. But if they have any kind of offense, they're going to have a good year.
Right, but my thing with Anaheim is, and I know I've been labeled a Randy Carlyle lover, but I just think that after that,
rightly so.
After that, sort of country club atmosphere with Bruce Boudreau, I think they needed somebody who would stick a cattle prod somewhere, and that's what Randy Carlyle is going to do. Randy Carlyle did not stop being a good coach.
No, but we'll see if he does that this go round, because there's a certain amount of guys there that are comfortable with Randy and wanted Randy, and you don't ever hear. Here's the only difference, and I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing, but you never hear players saying, "Oh, thank God we hired John Tortorella and we got John back."
Yeah.
Nobody ever says that going into training camp, right? But they said that about Carlisle. That's my only worry for that team, is that they slip on the old shoe.
Right. Yeah, that's legitimate. I think that's a legitimate worry too. I think they're. I honestly think Anaheim has to find itself completely. I think that they're gonna. I think they could struggle out of the gate very much so. Even though they have Carlisle back, I think he's a good coach. But I don't think that the coaching. I think the coaching has been overblown in that city. Honestly, I don't think it's been Boudreau's fault. I mean, they've had a very good team.
No, I mean we know that there's some misplaced salaries on.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about the playoffs, but at this
core players, the core players didn't perform.
Yeah, I think that's why I think the general manager, when we talked the other day, I think the general manager actually has been pretty much overrated in that situation.
When you were the worst team in the league, the worst record in the league through the first 2 months. I mean, worse than Toronto, worse than Columbus. That says something, and then you're the best team the second half of the year. I mean, yes, some of the problem has to do with the core group and the players that are there, but it also, and blame has to go to Bob Murray, but I think some blame has to go to Bruce Boudreau because clearly things weren't working, and only when he went to a more responsible defensive style, which is which is the same thing he did in Washington. He had this wide open offense, and then he played more responsibly. I mean, then you'd have to think that that stylistically things just didn't work. And I think Carlisle, in spite of what happened in Toronto with their struggles defensively, he is more of a defensive coach. And I think that's
they'll go back to they'll play the way they played at the end of the year last year. That's for sure. They'll be that team again.
I mean, but if Eck had his way and we did more math and we did it on a sliding scale where we point out production per dollars. Anaheim was probably one of the worst teams for production for dollars in the NHL, and the Rangers are pretty close by. And that's like in this era, in this cap era, you really have to get a bang for your buck. You can no longer overpay guys. It just kills you.
It definitely matters. It matters a lot. This was sent to me. This video was sent to me. It's kind of cool. So RHA Skills is one of these many companies that puts out skill videos. And they put this one out 6 years ago. And but it's worth watching. Check this out. So this is Sam Gagne, who at the time is 21 years old, and he's in this. They have this is a Russian guy who's teaching the skill stuff.
Yep.
And so he's 21, and now who's this? Who do you think this is?
Damn.
It's a 12. So
the number and everything in the
numbers are relevant. Okay.
Irrelevant. The name on the back is not his at all. So, but
I don't know. Johnny Gaudreau.
I'll tell you what, this guy's 13 in this. So he's 13 years old. This is a 13-year-old doing this. Okay, so I mean, I don't know what you've seen of 13-year-olds. This is pretty unbelievable for a 13-year-old. All right, so this is a 13-year-old.
All right,
so Sam Gagne was 21 at the time.
Sam Gagne was 21. This guy was 13. This guy is now currently in the NHL.
Right, I figured that. But he's too young to be Gaudreau now, so now I have to go for a younger guy.
So that would be.
Go ahead.
Connor McDavid.
Oh.
How about that? I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, that's.
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
Yeah, I mean, at 13, this is the thing that you see. Like, Gagne is out there. He's 21. He's already in the NHL at that point, right? Because he's played. I mean, he came into the league really early, if I remember.
Although to be fair, Gretzky was doing that at like 8. But whatever,
No, for sure.
I mean, there's
really not.
We used to see Wayne Gretzky videos when he was 8 years old. Do you remember that?
It's really not, to be fair, to be honest. But
there's a CBC video from when Mitch Marner was like 7 years old, and he's going through everybody, including the coaches. It says he's just going through. I mean, when you have talent like that, I mean, you're going to stand out earlier in your life than.
But he was a big kid, obviously, at 13 still. So Connor, it's just. Yeah, and it brings up what we were talking about a little bit yesterday, because we were talking about, like, is Connor McDavid, like, the list that I saw this list recently, and we sent out a list, I think, where was it? We sent out a list of forwards we were going to talk about before, which we can talk about, but the Hockey News had a list, and there was this article I saw where it had basically the top 100 players listed by all these different publications, do their top hundreds or whatever.
Right.
And Connor McDavid was in the top 10 already on all of those lists.
Sure.
Is that fair?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's fair yet.
It's not based on production. It's based on potential.
They're going with futures.
Yeah.
Well, right now the list was it says top 10 players.
Then it's not.
Is he a top 10 player in the NHL right now?
He's had one season where if you prorated the amount of points over 82 games, he had, I think it was 87 points.
Not sure, but here, wait. So I got to give you these numbers for younger people that have never heard them, right? And I'm wondering why I was saying that we used to get Wayne Gretzky videos when he was 8 years old. So in 1969-70, playing for Brantford, he had 167 points. Now, that was an okay year. The next year he came back, and he had 316 points. Now, that was an okay year. Then the next year he came back, He had 517 points. He had 378 goals in 85 games.
And this is at what? As an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old?
1972. He was born in 61, so 11.
11 years old. Yeah.
11 years old. He was averaging around 5 goals a game.
I know. No, that's.
It's mind-blowing. You'll never see numbers like that again. Now, of course, hockey players have gotten better and leagues have gotten better, but it just shows you that he went from 167 to 316 to 517 points.
And it wasn't like he was wearing skates and everybody else was wearing boots. It was
right.
He was better than everybody else.
Is just when that kind of thing happens. I mean, what is that? You know, how does that happen? I guess that's the magic thing that everyone's know. How does something like that happen? Like cannot be completely.
It's a freak of nature.
Yeah, it can't be. It's just this whole nature versus nurture thing is great coaching from his father. Obviously, growing up, he learned how to play the game. But at some point, is it just like a natural thing that takes over? I mean, that's what I don't know. You know, like I've never. And I think it is. I mean, I have a friend who's got a kid who's playing in youth hockey now that's killing it. And
well, I mean, okay, he was never the biggest player. He was never the fastest player. He was never the player who had the best shot. But he was good enough in all those things, and he had this innate ability to see the play develop before everybody else could. I mean, you know, nobody, and I'm not the biggest Wayne Gretzky fan in the world, but nobody found the open man better or led a player better in hockey history than Wayne Gretzky.
Well, just as in comparison, like if I were to look up those numbers for Sidney Crosby, and I will, he had some eye-popping numbers too, but like nothing like that. Like this is just like it's from another planet.
But like X said, I mean, you know, as we've gotten further along, I mean, the quality of the opposition has improved. So he's not playing against teams like Gretzky did at 10 and 11 years old, where you know they're nobody's a match for him. I mean,
in 2001, Crosby had 193 points in 74 games, which is pretty spectacular.
Almost 3 points a game.
Almost 3 points a game, and that was his highest total until he actually had 168 for Rimouski in the queue. But it just shows you like Crosby is the best player right now still of his generation until somebody passes him by, maybe McDavid will or whatever, but still shows the jump from Gretzky. Even though you can't match up eras, there's nobody that's going to ever go into even midget anymore and score 517 points. Nobody will do that again.
No. I mean, the thing that I always come back to, which is like, to me, is, you know, as a kid playing hockey pools, you know, this is what I always remember, how you had to draft Gretzky's assists or goals.
Yeah.
And they would go 1 and 2 in the draft.
Yeah.
Like of all, you know, so like you would, every other player you get his points, you know, basically whatever points you got, you get that player's points. And with Gretzky, you had to make it fair. Whoever got Gretzky would just win the pool. So you had to make it fair by splitting up his goals and assists.
Yeah, there was a span of about 4 or 5 years. Whenever he did regular season or playoff fantasy hockey, you had to do that. But then, at a certain point, that ended.
Yeah, but it just shows you maybe somebody will come across like that again.
But I can't think of a player like. Can you think of a player like today that would you be in that spot with? You know, where like, you know, like you could say, oh, we're gonna split up McDavid's points, or you know, or I just can't see it. I don't.
Well, not right now, but I mean, you can't say what McDavid's gonna be in a year or two. I mean,
like in baseball, there was one guy like 1 year, Hack Wilson had 190 RBIs. I'm sure if somebody was playing fantasy baseball that year, they would have been like, oh my God, this guy's getting me more than an RBI a game. Which is unheard of. Like that's just, you know, something that doesn't happen, and it's the only time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Like that. So you know.
Right. Now, do we have the link of the KHL thing?
The KHL fight, I can get it.
I mean that. Do you want to talk about this? And Mike, maybe you can set this up a little bit as to what happened. This is something that's a little bit insane.
Well, it was a preseason game between Astana Baris, which is one KHL team, and I think they're the Kunlun Red Star, which is one of the
picked on a new team.
Yeah, one of the KHL new
Red Star
teams in China.
Right.
And 3 minutes into the first period, this player who I cannot, I'll let you try to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Face-off occurs, and he sucker punches one player.
Okay, here it comes. So I'm going to show you guys this.
Okay. So let's do the play.
You will bring this up now. And so here we go. So here we go. So check. This is from the KHL again.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay.
He sucker punches one player. Okay. Here you watch.
What is going on? I've got this
Just hit.
strange.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. So.
Nope.
Hold on. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
No, keep it. So just let it keep going.
Just keep going. He's got plenty of guys to go after.
Okay.
Lock it on you,
I'm trying. I know. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pause for a second here because I'm getting all kinds of other sounds going on here. So stop for a second.
Okay.
Something is askew. Let me just get rid of this.
Okay, I'll explain it while we were recueing it. I mean, essentially,
All right, I'll get it going. Ready?
He attacks one player, sucker punches him. The whistle goes. Another fight breaks out with somebody else, but this particular player then goes after the guy that he sucker punched again. Then went after another player and attacked him from behind. Then went after, I think it was he did that twice, and then he went at the bench and attacked the bench. So he was completely unhinged.
There was one guy who turtled so quickly, he just grabbed his jersey and just like slid him across the ice. And I felt like, dude, you can't turtle like that. You got to at least get up and hack at him or something.
When I saw this, I was thinking this was the outtakes from the movie Goon. I mean, that's how bad it was. It was
All right,
It really was bad.
Okay.
We're gonna have it up now. Here we go. So here we go. All right. Sorry about that. This is CBS's website, just completely doing all kinds of stupid things. All right. So here we have it.
That's the sucker punch.
Okay, this is sucker punch.
Now the referee is clueless here because there's another fight going on. So he lets this guy, and as he lets him go, he sucker punches this guy. And here's the drag. He throws him. Then he goes after a third guy. Okay, and here's the coup de grace. After he finishes this, he drags him.
Yeah, just the drag.
He goes after the second guy, number 2, again.
The point was,
Now the pièce de résistance. Watch.
Yeah.
He'll turn and he goes at the bench.
Oh wow.
but here's the thing: there's 6 guys on the bench. Just go out there and grab him and start pummeling the guy.
I made a point in a blog a couple days ago. It's like, okay, is this what we have to look forward to in the NHL when all these teams are getting rid of their enforcers? They're going to have agitators like Antoine Roussel or Brad Marchand, and there are going to be big players who aren't particularly fighters, but you do have to have somebody who stands up for somebody. Doesn't mean they have to go out and be a predator, but they have to be
right.
And teams are eliminating those players. So what happens if all of a sudden you have a guy who's a big guy like a Ryan Reeves or a Milan Lucic type, but not somebody as talented as Lucic, and they go out there and they do what this guy did, go after 2 or 3 guys. It's letting them run willy-nilly, and now I know the league will probably suspend, the NHL would probably suspend this guy for 25 games, but still.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen. And, here's where I sort of liken it to. When I've had people say, oh, I could take Crosby in a fight, and I'm like, seriously, have you ever seen Sidney Crosby, how big he is? He may not fight, but I got to tell you something. If somebody were just going willy-nilly and Crosby got in there, he'd be able to handle himself.
Oh, yeah.
Crosby fought Brandon Dubinsky. That's the only guy that he fights.
True. Remember there was a fight, Claude Giroux-Crosby fight, which
but I'm just saying a lot of these guys can handle themselves a lot better than guys of other eras too, because they're in such better shape.
Now this guy, they stopped the game after 3 minutes. They canceled it, and this player has been suspended for the entire preseason of the KHL, which.
Just the preseason of the KHL.
Right, exactly. So
that's horrible.
But I'll give you an example. Like, let's say somebody does that on the Rangers, right? Ryan McDonough's not a fighter, but you don't want to fight Ryan McDonough either.
No.
Like, that's the thing. If he gets into a fight with you, you're gonna feel it. It's just these guys don't fight all the time, but they can handle themselves.
But Russ, this is the KHL equivalent, and maybe this was a lot worse, but this is the equivalent of what Lucic did to the Sabres when he hit Ryan Miller. Nobody went after him.
Right.
Game. There was nobody on the ice that was willing to go after him because of Lucic's reputation and because he's, a tough guy to take on. And then the next game, Paul Gaustad, he was the only guy on the ice for the Sabres who had the gumption to stand up to Lucic. He got his clock cleaned, but at least he did it.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that can happen, and that it's more likely to happen now with the death of the enforcer in the NHL.
Yeah, I think that's true. And this is what we see though is kind of this typical cyclical. That's our thing.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Typical cyclical thing in the NHL. In that we have seen, like, if you remember, we had before the Broad Street Bullies, there wasn't a lot of fighting in the league. There was some stuff that was going on, and then one team got really powerful and strong and beat up on the Flyers, and the Flyers decided they weren't going to get beat up on again.
St. Louis Blues.
Right, the Blues, and then they escalated it, and I do think that there will come there may come a point. Now the question is back then there was a difference between the enforcers that you didn't have to skate as well to survive it. Now you have to skate, right? But I don't think that really matters too much because I think there are going to be enforcers who are going to be able to skate. Like there's so many kids coming up through hockey that can skate, and if they're big and they can't quite score, they're going to turn to being I'm going to be a physical guy. That's where I'm going to go. And even some of the better scorers, as you know, like some of the enforcers had huge careers in putting up points as they were coming up. So.
I always like to use Riley Cote as an example. I think he had 30 goals in juniors.
Yep, I interviewed him in my on Flyer Buzz TV in the car, and I got that story, and it was he's like, yeah, actually, I was pretty much touted as a scorer, and he came in, and he couldn't do that.
A guy like Tom Wilson is a type of guy I don't think he's ever going to score 20 goals in the NHL, but he's big, he's fast, and he doesn't shy away from the physical going. And I don't know if there are many players in the NHL would really want to mess with Tom Wilson. So he could conceivably be the type of guy who could run roughshod over a team and nobody would stand up to him.
Yeah.
But I think now they can because every team has at least 2 or 3 guys on defense that are 6'3" or bigger.
Yeah.
Like I think at some point the coach will look at those guys and say you have to do something.
Yeah, and just because they're not considered fighters like wrestlers, they're all very, very strong. You're not talking about, and you're talking about guys who will defend themselves, and they're not going to not defend themselves. So I do agree, but whether we'll see that big swing again back to like the getting more physical or not is an interesting question. And I think the Western Conference actually has become the more physical conference of the two conferences. Which is odd. I believe because if you went back through history, I would always think of the Eastern Conference being more physical. But I think lately, in the last few years, maybe because of the intensity of the Western Conference, because you have so many really good teams, we've seen some bloodbaths of playoff series in the Western Conference.
But that's the thing. That's the LA Kings effect. If you look at it, though, the Chicago Blackhawks have never been a physical team. They've been sort of like a cheap team sometimes, or an antagonistic team where you have Shaw annoying people, or Seabrook or Keith, using their stick as a weapon, but not really physical. I mean, LA is big and raw-boned. Anaheim is sort of tried to match that. So is San Jose. So I think it's part of the West.
So is St. Louis and Calgary, and Nashville's a tough team too. I mean, there are tough teams.
Here's what I think would change that. Right now we have that one-piece glass, right, that everybody realizes is sort of like bad when you get slammed against that. You get concussion, all these things. If there's ever another breakthrough in the glass, whether it ever gets like some sort of padding or cushioning or whatever, then I could see the physical part of the game getting ramped up again. That might just be a technology thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Or even better helmets,
I was watching. It's funny you bring this up because I was watching it I was watching a game that I had on I found my old VCR tapes, and I do still have a VCR in the house, connected to an old TV, like it's part of the old TV. So I put the VCR in, and it was a game from the, like the Dave Poulin, Brian Propp era, the Flyers. So it was like 82, 83, somewhere in there. And what I was amazed by watching it, just when you go back to eras like that, is the concept of finishing your checks, which it was so different then, where you could literally, a guy could pass the puck away, you could still be a good 4 or 5 skates from him, but you were allowed to go in after him after you passed the puck away 4 or 5 skates and finish your check that way. Where now we would see that called in a second if anyone tried that, and that was a big way to gain momentum, was just to hit everybody, make sure everybody gets hit. If they handle the puck, they're gonna get hit.
Right.
Even if it's a couple seconds later, they're going to get hit, and that was allowed. that I think the boards have done a lot. I think a lot of that has, and just the fact that players skate harder now, and the fact that padding has gotten smaller and lighter. So I think they feel it a little bit more in some ways. Even though the padding, is better, it doesn't necessarily protect you. Like it's not like it's gone away from football type padding, which is sort of where it was going.
Well, in some arenas, that seamless glass is like running into a wall of concrete.
It is.
I remember, and I know I'm old, but I go back to the Odd in Buffalo, and I remember when, say Jim Schoenfeld would hit somebody into the boards would give, the glass would give about a foot. And, I know that players weren't skating as fast, and I know they weren't hitting, but they were hitting as hard.
Yeah.
And there was not as many concussions. So, I mean, I know that maybe with the technology right now and the arenas the way they are, there is not the capability to have that much give, but I think that might be a contributing factor to some of the concussions and head injuries.
I think it plays into it for sure. I think it definitely plays into it for sure. All right, so yesterday on the number game, I wanted to start the number game a little bit earlier because today we have number 9, which is a biggie, so I want to get into that. So yesterday in the number game, I made my pitch for number 8 as best I could, and let's see what the fans out there have said. Let's go to the results here. So number 8 is a good one. Number 9's crazy good, but number 8 had its things. So let's check it out. I'm sorry, I should have had this loaded before, and I did, but I lost it. Here it is. Okay, so the greatest number 8's currently playing. Okay, we came up with 3, and there've been about 1,500 votes in the last hour for this. And this wasn't a battle at all, of course. Ovechkin takes 85% of this. Doughty.
You at the goalpost. You knew he was gonna win.
That was the easiest.
No. Ridiculous. It was ridiculously easy.
Doughty 12%. Pavelski, who I think is the greatest, currently playing at 3%. So.
Poor Joe.
I don't really think he's the greatest. I just could make an argument. The greatest 8 ever to play the game. Here we go. The number 4, because I put Larionov in there just because I thought we should. Right. Number 4 was Larionov with 2.84%. Number 3, Cam Neely at 11.01%, which means we have a battle between Ovechkin and Solani. Winning this at 53.95%, Teemu Solani. So
2 for 2, baby.
2 for 2. Teemu Solani is
my
what you
pick
guys.
Too, but obviously you took him, so.
I mean, I think that this is a very arguable one. There is no bigger Teemu fan than me.
Because I won twice.
No, but I think
it is arguable. This one's really arguable. I agree.
Ovechkin definitely can be considered the best date of all time in my mind. It just.
I mean, if he plays another 5 years at the rate he's playing, he will be.
He will be, right? And and Teemu was phenomenal, and Teemu had his. Had his great rookie year, and then put up. Had some years that were so-so, but Ovechkin's been so solid throughout his career, but there's no nicer person on the planet than Teemu Solani, so I'm fine with him winning this.
Yep, me too.
Any day of the week. All right, so let's go to number 9, okay? And number 9, I get to go first on today.
Oh, jeez.
Well, that's fair.
I haven't gone first for 3 days here, so.
Like you literally got it handed to you yesterday. It couldn't have been.
No. Wait a second. I got it handed to me, and I picked Solani, who was not considered the favorite, and I won.
No, he was. Wait, no. Whoa. In my mind, he was the favorite. In X's mind, he wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ak. Take.
All right, so I'm going to go with Gordie Howe today, and I don't think we've talked so much about Gordie and everything, and of course there's the fact that he just recently passed away, so that's not, even had he not passed away, even if we not talked about him, Mr. Hockey is Mr. Hockey, and that's that simple. That's all I have to say about that. Okay. Let's see, Mike or Russ, we'll flip a coin today.
I'll let Mike go. Mike can go. No, Mike, you go.
Yeah, because this is going to be painful to Mike to pick. I like this move, Russ. Very good. Very good. Mike?
I'm taking Bobby Hull.
I knew that you go there.
Because I refuse to take a member of the Bleu Blanc et Rouge.
Yeah, Bobby Hull, who
Bobby Hull is one of the 3, so I'll take Bobby Hull.
You can't go wrong with Bobby Hull. Obviously, brought the WHA into existence. Essentially, gave us 4 new teams.
You couldn't corner me. Sorry.
The Golden Jet.
The coolest Bobby Hull stat is at the time when they were clocking guys for different things. What did they clock him at? 60 miles an hour as a skater?
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was really cool for back then because
It was.
because nobody
totally
could
cool.
skate like that back then.
No, that's totally cool. I mean, what I always remember about Bobby Hull, the story that I always grew up with, and besides having Bobby Hull hockey as my rod hockey game as a kid, was the fact that Bobby Hull would take his first shot every game at the goalie's head,
Right.
on purpose, just to freak him out. And
Yeah.
that was his MO, and you knew it as a goalie. You knew he was going to shoot at your head right away, and it was intimidating. And he, next time he came down, the goalie was terrified, and that was his.
I don't know how intimidating it was because these goaltenders, and I'm saying this with all due respect and love to all of them, these goaltenders were crazy enough to not wear a mask.
I know.
All right, actually, here's the real number for Hull. He was 29.7 miles per hour without the puck and 28.3 miles per hour with the puck. That's pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
I mean, because I said 60, and I'm thinking, yeah, it can't be that.
There's probably kilometers per hour or something like that.
Yeah, it might have been kilometers that I was thinking, but that is amazing considering with the puck. That's a heck of a speed with the puck. It just shows how good an athlete. I got to interview Bobby Hull like 2 years ago, and it was at the National Collectors Convention, and he forgot his teeth. And he goes, listen, I'm going out here. I don't have my teeth. And I'm like, Bob, it doesn't matter. I said, it doesn't matter that you don't have your teeth. And it was the greatest. I just loved it.
Awesome.
As long as you're not eating corn on the cob, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
His numbers would have been a lot greater, of course, if he had stayed in the NHL the entire time, which he didn't.
Him with the composite stick.
So Russ, go ahead.
Well, I am going to leave the other guy for. Basically, I will leave him up for Eck to put him in.
Oh, nice.
Because the guy who I'm gonna pick never started a riot, and so I'm gonna go with Andy Bathgate.
Bathgate.
And he is a Hall of Famer as well. He's got his number retired along with Adam Graves, the number 9.
The recently departed Andy Bathgate, yes.
Recently departed, but again, one of the best interviews, if not the best interview of my life, when he basically told me how he intimidated Gordie Howe because his dad was a boxer. And he taught Andy Bathgate how to box because in his era, you didn't have anybody to protect the guy. It was up to you. And so Andy Bathgate would just one-punch guys in the solar plexus. And so he basically got a reputation, and he got Gordie Howe to back off. He cursed at Gordie Howe, and he said he'd knock the metal plate to the other side of his effing head, but there was no metal plate in Gordie's head. But it doesn't matter because Gordie took that as, okay, I'm going to leave you alone, and stopped. Because there was a whole thing. People could look it up in the New York Times. There was a thing that Andy complained about. I think it was Gordie Howe spearing him.
And
I remember reading about this.
And he was a key acquisition in 1964. Well, one of the first sort of like trade deadline blockbusters.
Yes.
Him getting traded from the Rangers to the Leafs, and he won a cup with the Leafs in '64. So.
And then he ended up with the Penguins. Remember the year of his career. All right, so I'm going to go with who obviously is the 1A in my book. Like again, because you didn't mention him. If Gordie Howe didn't exist, there'd be no question. Or if this guy wore any other number but number 9, he would be the number 1 player in that number, and that would be Maurice.
I know Mike Modano. You're going to say Mike Modano, right?
Maurice Richard, of the Montreal Canadiens, who played from 1943-44 to 1959-60. So talk about 16 seasons with the Montreal Canadiens. Won every cup you can imagine in that period of time.
And his last 5 seasons, he won last 4 or 5, he won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, just passed away last year, right?
No.
2 years ago.
That was Jean Beliveau.
I apologize.
No, he passed away about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. And there is a movie about him, which he was very controversial. But my gosh, it's hard to argue. You can definitely argue the case that Richard was better than Gordie Howe, and that's a really crazy thing I know for people to say. But just in terms of what Richard could do, in terms of like true skill, in terms of actually defining like a French Canadian skilled player, in my mind, he just defined a bunch of players that came after him. The impact he had on so many players that were to follow him was enormous, just like Gordie Howe's was. I mean, they both had the same kind of.
Oh, we got some big news, Zach.
Okay.
Renaud Lavoie from TVA Sports is reporting that Patrick Roy has just resigned as head coach of the Colorado Avalanche.
Jeez.
He had 1 year left on his contract.
Wow, I guess he didn't like that that vote that knocked him the other day that told him that said Colorado was one of the least. Oh man, that's fascinating. Speaking of Montreal Canadiens, right?
What happened to Russ? We lost him.
Yeah, Russ was shocked by that news. And
I
just
mean, I mean, okay, we know that after that first really big year that he had in Colorado, they took a step back, but
yeah, I mean, that's interesting in so many levels. And like we'll talk about this, I'm sure, more tomorrow. I'm going to go do some research and write about it now. But on so many levels, this is nuts. I mean, really, the question that I have about this immediately is how much control does Patrick Waugh want in a situation? Because I heard there was a power struggle there to a degree, that
well,
Sakic and Waugh were on the same page, but that Waugh considered himself more than just a coach and wasn't more than just a coach.
yeah, I
So,
mean, I think he had director of player personnel or something, some other title as part of his, or VP of hockey operations, something like that as part of his title. And when he was hired, they said that he would have significant input into personnel. And I know that this connection was made before, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow. But I know that the connection was made before he took the Colorado job about whether he would be the guy who would be the first head coach of an expansion franchise or a franchise in Quebec City. So now he can go back.
and Quebec City got a new ownership. That group got new ownership last week. I think it was the Quebec City group. They took new management or something like that. They have the new top of their group, and that's really very good. And that group will eventually get a team. But yeah, I think that Patrick Waugh is going to show up somewhere, and you would think him resigning at a time like this would lead to that.
I mean, I believe he owns the Quebec Ramparts.
Yeah, he does. He's a part owner of that team.
So he can go back. He can go back and take over, being the general manager or even the coach. I can't remember who the head coach. I think it's Philippe Boucher, former NHLer, but I'm just doing that by memory, so I might be wrong. But he could go back and be GM of Quebec for a while. Thing is, It's like you look at. I mean, they brought in players like Grigorenko who were Patrick Waugh guys.
Yeah, big time.
And now, not to say that the entire rosters, was crafted around him, but yeah, this is. I mean, and you're talking now. We're in the middle of August, and training camp is a month away. So
this is a very, very strange time for this.
Yeah, and I off the top of my head, I mean, who are the coaches that could come in at short notice and take over the Avalanche? I mean, will they just hire somebody internally and go through the year that way, or will they hire somebody off the market? And there's not a lot out there because Guy Boucher is gone, and and Randy Carlisle's gone, so most of the coaches are gone.
Yeah, no, most of the young coaches for sure. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's some old coaches still out there that could be picked up, but
Ron Wilson.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think so. But fascinating. All right. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on this for sure. And well, I'll put up the number 9 thing. I'm going to go do some research on the story and then check back just a little bit after I talk to some people as to find out what I think might have gone on here, or based on if anyone has any real news about why this happened or how this happened at this time. There's no question that Patrick Waugh is a. We knew when he was the coach that he would give us lots of interesting stories.
Just send a quick invite to Russ so he can get his thoughts before we end the show.
Okay.
And then we can talk about it more tomorrow because I'm sure you'll find out more about this.
I hope so. Yeah, this sounds like something that will come out pretty quickly, I would imagine.
Yeah, this is stunning. I mean, really.
Yeah, it really is. It really is surprising. I mean, they were fine at the draft and everything seemed okay, and
yeah, I mean, this is just he was VP of hockey operations as well as head coach.
Right, that's about as good as you can get. I mean, for what besides being coach and /GM, which maybe is what he wants to have, and if he wants to have that position, then I don't think that position is going to happen in Vegas. It's immediately thought about, okay, is he going to go? Maybe Vegas is hiring him as a coach.
Well, I mean, anything's a possibility right now, but there doesn't seem to be any connection between George McPhee and Patrick Waugh. I know that
Not that I would think of. Not that
Yeah,
not that I
Mike. Mike McVie is George McVie's brother, correct? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, hey, I believe so, and he played for Montreal, but that's a pretty weak connection. So yeah, anything's possible, but I would think that that's why I think that if this Quebec situation, it's probably going to be a year or two before that gets rectified.
Well, it is. I mean, it's going to be at least a year before they're not going to start next. They're not going to start the year that Vegas is starting, so they're going to start at least in the earliest the year after that. Which is why I heard you could hear an announcement about Quebec, sometime soon, but not, that it would still be a couple years away, that it would not start at the same time as Vegas. I do think that Quebec will get a team. I don't think there's any question about that. It's just a matter of when they'll get it. I don't know. This is interesting. I sent Russ an invite, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's having trouble getting back in, so we can cover more tomorrow.
We'll have to wait for Russ's. There'll be a little teaser. Wait for Russ's opinion on this all tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We got to get to work. We'll talk to you soon.